Welcome to the Natural Health and Healing Show with one of New England's leading nutritionists, Mark Mincola. The show is brought to you by the Good Health Stores in Hanover and Quincy. Call Mark at 781-837-4900 with your health and nutrition questions. Now, here's Mark.
Good evening and welcome. We have a very interesting program lined up for you this evening. And we have Catherine Foley here from Jar Formulas. Welcome.
Good evening.
How are you?
Very good, thank you.
Great. Good to have you here. And, you know, Catherine, an awful lot of folks are hearing more and more these days in commercials, books, interviews on the radio, etc., about acid reflux and about acid problems with regards to pH and chronic acidity.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's astounding when you consider that 60 million Americans are diagnosed with gastroesophageal reflux.
Right.
It's astounding. And 40% of this entire country have symptoms at least once per year, for a month per year, and are on some form of OTC, some over-the-counter drug. So 70% of those diagnosed are using over-the-counter drugs for at least a 1-month period.
Wow.
That is just crazy. So many folks, of course, overeating the wrong things, and so many folks really not clear about what acid foods are, and, you know, the idea of having a very acidic chemistry, and certainly clueless about some of the very serious issues that can lead to besides GERD, which is unfortunately all too common. Even children.
Yeah.
You know, when I was doing some research on it, and I've found the number of children under the age of 12 suffering from esophageal reflux.
That's dangerous.
That is absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, the diet of most American kids these days, it's all about white flour, it's all about sugar, it's all about food coloring, food additives, and obviously those are very acidic foods. So the problem is not just an adult problem. The other thing I found too, there's a reflux1.com report, GERD linked to esophageal cancer. According to a new report published in the Cancer Journal for Clinicians, the alarming rise in esophageal cancer may be linked to GERD and other gastrointestinal disorders. Esophageal cancer is the 7th leading cause of cancer worldwide and is the fastest growing cancer in the United States, with approximately 3 to 6 cases per 100,000 persons. Of the new cases, 10,000 will occur in men and 3,400 will occur in women. And, you know, that is very serious business. And unfortunately, of the 14,000 that are diagnosed each year, 13,000 will die.
Wow.
So we're dealing with a malignancy rate of 80%, an 80% death rate within 5 years of diagnosis.
Okay.
So, you know, folks really need to take this issue very, very seriously. And the most heartening part of all this is that they really can make a difference.
Yeah, they really can. And a lot of the OTC solutions that you mentioned are just Band-Aids for the problem. They don't actually correct the problem. So it's really important for people to understand that when this is happening, there is a lot of tissue damage that occurs. So there's a lot of benefit in taking that as a sign or a symptom that you really need to change your diet and make long-standing changes.
Well, there's no question about that fact, and you're absolutely right that they are indeed Band-Aids. When you consider that the top 10 medications used for heartburn relief, Prilosec, Prevacid, Esifex, Zantac, Zegerid, Pepcid, Tagamet, Mylanta, Tums, and Maalox, in that order. And, you know, when you consider, again, that the side effects, most common adverse side effects include abdominal pain, constipation, diarrhea, and nausea, but it can get a lot more serious than that as well. I looked into it in further detail and found that there are actually cardiovascular symptoms as well, in many cases angina, arrhythmias, bradycardia, palpitations, tachycardia, vasodilation problems, digestive issues with dyspepsia, again, being caused by the medicine.
Yeah.
And I think there is such an incredibly long list of potential side effects. And as you point out, at best, you're getting a Band-Aid here.
You really are.
Most importantly, folks really need to appreciate that they have 100% empowerment over this very, very dangerous issue. And it really comes down to understanding that everything you eat and drink is going to produce either an acid or an alkaline end result biochemically. And like everything else, whether we're talking about any other biologies, whether we're talking about plants, swimming pools, or virtually anything, everything has a pH.
Yeah.
And that potential hydrogen, or that pH, really is all about representing a chemistry that's more on the acid side or more on the alkaline side.
Right.
And these tissues of ours are very sensitive, very fragile, and they do not do well under these very acid circumstances.
No, they don't.
And that's precisely, I think, what folks really need to hear about. There are some great solutions that are perfectly natural, that are great viable solutions that really work. There's certainly a preventive component to this as well. And let's be honest about it. When folks are eating their fruits, their vegetables, as most folks don't, unfortunately, you're going to really make a significant difference, because all those fruits and vegetables, folks, are very alkalizing. They're buffering. And, the thing that constitutes a buffering effect in your tissues is the potassium, the magnesium, is really the electrolytes. And the high stores of these electrolytes in your fruits and your vegetables are really the key to buffering your system to the point where your tissues are not being assaulted by these incredibly powerful acids.
Yeah, and when you say the tissues being assaulted by the acids, that's the connection between GERD and the cancer arising.
Absolutely right.
Is that what happens is then somebody will get a condition called Barrett's esophagus. Mm-hmm. And Barrett's esophagus is the degradation of the tissue right around the connection of the esophagus to the upper stomach.
Right.
And once that happens, you lose the elasticity, the valve starts to break down. So now you have something that was just, diet-related acid reflux disease that has now become a real breakdown of your body's system to deal with that. So the end result, the solution for that, is typically surgeries to bulk up that valve tissue again, or if it's left unchecked and people just keep treating with antacids or the proton pump inhibitors like Prilosec, it degrades the tissue so much that it actually causes the tissue to be mutagenic with all of the acids, and the acids will act as like free radicals. And so people will start to develop cancer, and we're seeing such a rise in these cancers is because the Prilosec and things like that mask the symptoms so much that people don't see that it's getting worse.
Well, and I always say, too, that there's this real delicate sort of balance between good acids and bad acids in the body, stress acids, acids from very inefficient foods, unhealthy foods. These are the acids that really cause the problem. Now, there are healthy acids. There are digestive acids to break down our proteins, our carbohydrates, and our fats. Extremely important to make sure that we have those ample supplies of those healthy enzymes in our body. And those good acids are really the keys to building up some digestive support. Yeah. If folks don't have those good acids, those foods are not going to break down.
And that's true. So, you have a diet where, you may be eating well, but you're not nourished.
Absolutely.
You're not nourished.
And once again, it's the fruits and vegetables. Not only are they alkalizing, but they're very rich in enzymes. Yeah. So, in a sense, when we first consume those fruits and vegetables, they're dropping off and depositing these wonderful good acids, good enzymes that want to interact with our foods, break our foods down, help us to assimilate that nutrition. But at the same time, once we're completed, they don't interfere with the alkalizing absorption process. Yeah. So they have that kind of perfect syncopation. They're really, nature, it's amazing. It always comes down to that same old picture that nature had this whole thing kind of worked out well in advance.
And we just catch up with it.
And it takes us a little while because, you have this picture in your mind of somebody who's eating steak tips and eating pizza, barbecued pork, chili hot dogs, and all this stuff, and they're not eating their fruits and vegetables, and and they're getting all stressed out, and before you know it, they're suffering from these really horrible pains in their digestive tract, and their esophagus is unfortunately degenerating from all this bad acidity. Then they rush off to pick up an over-the-counter drug like a Prevacid or something like that, and they buffer their system.
Yeah.
And then tomorrow when they wake up to eat that very heavy, fatty stuff, what's going to be there to break it down?
Absolutely, and having something like that almost disconnects the human being from the experience. So it disconnects them from the experience so they can go on and continue to eat that way and not feel the side effects, so therefore they don't know that they're continuing to hurt themselves.
Right. So I think that, when folks are thinking about, the 60 million of us Americans out there who are suffering from esophageal reflux problems, from these acid stomach problems, which is really what it is. I mean, most folks just refer to this in its earlier phases as heartburn. Oh, I just have a little heartburn. I'll be fine. I'll start taking the Tums. You're going to get yourself in a heap of trouble long term if that's what you're relying upon, because that Tums is really a form of calcium that is very difficult to break down.
Yep.
And that calcium is going to deposit in places you're not going to want it, especially if you're using it on an ongoing basis. It's going to shut down your ability to digest. It's going to deposit in places like arteries, kidneys, developing kidney stones. You're going to develop gallstones, all kinds of problems, bone spurs. Whenever you put errant forms of calcium in the body that are not properly broken down, and you do it at the risk of not having good acids to break those calciums down, Absolutely. You're going to really find yourself in a heap of trouble.
Absolutely.
So, folks need to know that there are ways to really work with this issue. And again, I keep reiterating here, 100% of this problem is preventable.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the key, 100% preventable. So when you have these issues and you're feeling kind of lost, you tune on WATD on Sunday nights at 8 o'clock, and you're going to get the solution, and we're going to do that for you this evening. And you stay right where you are and take a short break.
Hi, this is Laura from Good Health. Did you know that organic foods offer up to 1,000% more vitamins and minerals than non-organic foods? It's true. So this year, make every dollar count. Shop at Good Health Natural Foods in Quincy and Hanover. See us online at goodhealthnaturalfood.com. Remember, for certified organic produce, natural groceries, vitamins, bodybuilding, herbs, homeopathics, and natural cosmetics, it's Good Health Natural. See you soon.
Hi there, this is Mark Mincole, the Natural Health and Healing Show. I'm proud to announce that our new natural health care offices in Cohasset are offering personalized nutritional consultations. At Santi Holistic Healing, you'll experience an informative, individualized nutritional consultation by one of my finest personally trained nutritional experts. Your consultant will test you for specific food allergies and supplements. You'll chart out a personalized optimal nutritional roadmap that will detail your healthiest foods and nutritional supplements, even specific doses. Whether it's nutritional consulting or healing massage, call us at Santi Holistic Healing at 781-383-3393. Okay, welcome back in. One of the things, too, that folks have been asking me an awful lot about this evening, I'm getting flooded with calls and folks that are interested in, the burning question, the $64,000 question about whether they should get the flu shot or not.
Really?
I got news for you that it's so important, I think, to really make the connection here that the flu shot is not a solution. In fact, it's more likely a problem than it is a solution.
There's so many variants of the actual virus.
No question about that. But I think that the key here is that there are solutions for protecting you against influenza. And at this point, we'll talk about it a little bit more at the bottom of the hour, but at this point I just want to at least throw this suggestion in that you consider the option of foregoing the flu shot.
Right.
And I'm going to tell you exactly why at the bottom of the hour. So we're going to put you on a little cliffhanger for that one. But I'll give you some very strong arguments against the flu vaccines, and with some really interesting perspectives on that. But until then, between now and 8:30, don't go out and get a flu shot.
No.
And one of the interesting things that we talked about during the last break is the bacterial component of gastroesophageal reflux. Right. 60 million Americans, as we said, suffer from esophageal reflux problems, this acid indigestion, this chronic gastrointestinal discomfort. And obviously, when they eat fattier foods, they say, geez, I feel worse. As long as I eat fairly bland, vegetables and fruits, go easy on the oils and the butters and don't eat the fried foods, stay away from alcohol, coffee, chocolate, that kind of stuff. A fairly bland diet, I don't seem to be symptomatic. Well, your body's trying to tell you a little bit of something right there and then. I think we can make the diet a little bit more interesting, but clearly it's important to avoid the highly fried, fatty stuff and the really spicy stuff, the very acidic foods, too much of the red wines, too much of the coffee. You're going to find yourself in a heap of trouble. But the real key here is this leads often to some real bacterial imbalances.
Yeah.
And, I think that's an important point, too.
Yeah, there's, I can't talk about the subject without noting the courageous scientist who first discovered Helicobacter pylori bacteria not so long ago, maybe about 30 years ago, and he, said that he found a bacteria that is causing acid stomach and stomach ulcers, and, his peers called him crazy. He did the studies on it. He isolated the bacteria. He grew the bacteria outside of the body, was able to show it there. And he presented his paper to his peers, and they just wrote him off. They told him that absolutely not true. They said, what about the genetic component to acid reflux and ulcers? And he said, well, that's easily explained because typically families eat and drink out of the same plates and food,
right,
and they're basically passing the bacteria to each other. And he said, this is actually the genetic component of it. And so, because nobody believed him, he was very brave, and he infected himself with Helicobacter pylori to prove to his peers. And he was right, and he was able to treat that and cure himself of Helicobacter pylori. And just actually last year, he was awarded the Nobel Prize for his research. So, it just sometimes when we're facing traditional thought, and I'm not going to say traditional medicine because any kind of traditional thought is hard to break until you get to that point where, people can't refuse the scientific research. Because of his work, there's an understanding now, but we are still prescribing buffers,
right,
like antacids, and oftentimes if somebody is presenting with over-acid stomach or they have stomach ulcers, very rarely are we giving them the test to test for Helicobacter pylori. So it's worth mentioning that this is really important to ask your doctor for that test and rule that out.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I think the other part of the equation here is, too, people have got to understand that the connection between the medications and the bacterial buildup is really important. That's a very important connection to make.
Yeah.
That a lot of the medications, such as the Nexium or the generic versions of a lot of these medications, actually increase the risk of diarrhea. It's really blamed on a Clostridium, for example, the Clostridium bacteria, which is the third leading form of bacteria in folks over 75.
C. difficile.
C. difficile. And a lot of those folks, unfortunately, really have some very serious health issues. Many of those folks actually die from a complete loss of fluids and dehydration.
And it's actually running rampant in retirement.
It is running rampant. It truly is. And a lot of that really need be blamed and rooted back to many of these medications.
Right.
They are indeed in direct correlation here. So
the reason being is that your stomach is meant to have a certain acid pH to fight off the bacteria that you see in the environment.
Good bacteria, folks.
Yeah, and when you artificially reduce the pH of your stomach on a daily basis and without relent, you're exposing yourself to bacteria that normally would be killed in
You're
the
so
stomach
right
acid.
about that. And so many folks, when they hear the word bacteria, they immediately get defensive about it. But you know something? 1% of all the bacteria on planet Earth, 1% is bad bacteria.
Yeah.
99%, folks, of bacteria on this planet is actually user-friendly.
Absolutely.
So it's really important to make that connection. And these medicines are not increasing user-friendly bacteria.
No, and for C. diff infection, there's actually, when you look at bacterial populations in the intestinal tract, and what happens is they tend to shift as we age. You're born with a certain population. As you age, you eat different foods. Your body mainly converts into lactobacillus bacteria to ferment your foods. Then something really interesting happens after the age of 50 is that your bifidobacteria populations go down,
Right.
and they can see a direct crosshair in a
Right.
population graph
Yep.
of declining bifidobacteria and rising Clostridium.
Absolutely true. There's a little piece here that I brought in from Dr. Ray Sahelian, who's written some really great stuff, but he goes on and says, GERD drugs may not be safe. Popular GERD drugs such as proton pump inhibitors that block stomach acid production heighten the risk of an increasingly common infectious form of diarrhea. Taking such drugs as AstraZeneca's Nexium or Losec, or their generic version, significantly increase the risk of diarrhea blamed on C. diff bacteria. Frequently prescribed anti-heartburn drugs called H2 antagonists that include GlaxoSmithKline Zantac were found to double the risk of the bacterial diarrhea. The drugs reduce gastric acid, allowing for bacteria to multiply in the digestive system. C. diff is the third most common type of infectious diarrhea in patients age 75 and older. Exposure to C. diff bacteria, which causes infection and inflammation of the intestines, previously occurred mostly during hospital stays, but cases have increasingly been contracted in community settings. While antibiotics formerly blamed for outbreaks of the illness have declined in use, the acid-blocking drugs have become steadily more popular to treat ulcers and conditions such as gastric reflux disease.
Wow.
So there you have it, and I think that he hits it right on the head that we've really got to get a little bit more creative and really open up to the notion of preventing these problems. We have, as I keep saying repeatedly, 100% control over preventive management.
That's amazing. I can't help but when talking about this subject to think back about 7 years ago. I'm dating myself now, but 7 years ago, my epidemiology professor was the owner of a lab that used to run, tests on different retirement communities and what have you. And I remember once he said, we were talking about staph infection and, multi-resistant strain bacteria for antibiotics. And he said, honestly, the one thing that I'm really, really concerned about is C. diff infection. He said, I think in the next
He was ahead of the
years.
curve, wasn't he?
I mean, I can't, when we start talking about this stuff, I can't help but think back of him and just, he saw it coming. So, you're absolutely right. The overuse of antacids and along with a whole host of other symptoms is really lowering our resistance to bacteria.
Well, there's no question about it, and the unfortunately, the dollar sales of antacids in America is presently at $427 million. So, America is spending an awful lot of money on OTC medications. Forget the prescriptives.
Right.
If you put it all together, you're into the billions here. So it's really a remarkable problem that we have. It is unfortunately, it's a growing problem. 60 million Americans, unfortunately, being diagnosed with some form of what we would call expanded heartburn, folks.
Yeah.
So I think that it's important for us to get this message that you really have 100% empowerment potential here. And it's really a question of whether or not folks want to practice prevention or not.
Right.
And I think that, again, there is a number of different natural medicines we're going to share with you before this program is over. So sharpen the pencils during the next break because we're going to go over in great detail some really wonderful, very effective, viable options for alternative medicine for GERD and strategies that have zero side effects and have zero complications. And you'll find rather easily at the health food store.
Yay.
Without any major problems.
Yep.
And at the produce center.
Yeah.
we can't leave them out. So the other component to this that I think is important to bring in is the stress component.
Right.
Because, we talk about good acid, bad acid. And that's really the recurring theme that goes through all this stuff, is that all acid is not bad, all bacteria is not bad. What runs us into problems is when we lose the equilibrium. Balance is the optimal. I always tell people it's life is kind of like a bowling thing. If you throw too hard to the right, you gutter ball. You go too hard to the left, you gutter ball. It doesn't matter. You got to get it right down the middle.
I like that.
So the idea here is balance, and you can certainly attain balance by really building up a really powerfully effective pH diet. And a powerfully effective pH diet means you're using a lot of vegetables, a lot of fruits, whole grain products, unprocessed foods. You're staying away from a lot of the obvious negatives of the high sugar, high white flour, spice, coffees, too much of the alcohol, etc. And really just kind of trying to keep the body relatively clean.
Yeah.
And in so doing, you'll produce a very neutral pH or potential hydrogen. So as your pH is building up these stores of electrolytes, you have greater buffering capacity from one day to the next. Because when you do catch a cold or a flu, or you do have a very stressful day or a stressful week, you're going to really burn through those reserves.
Yeah, those nutrients.
So the objective is to have some reserves,
Right.
I guess. So you build up these alkalizing electrolytes with a good diet, and then when trouble hits, you still have plenty of support,
Right.
and you're not going to tip over. Otherwise, that acidity is really going to throw you off, and it starts eating away at those tissues, and bad acid will then predominate. I always tell folks one of the most important things they can do as well is to take the liquid chlorophyll.
Yeah, it's one of the best.
It is great. And, when you think about all the different gourmet greens that are out there that I get about 3,000 emails a month on, look, folks, the wonderful gourmet greens that they're charging you an arm and a leg out there, it's all about the chlorophyll. The chlorophyll is really the one key root element that you're really trying to take advantage of with these gourmet greens.
Yeah.
So it's all about liquid chlorophyll, and you can get it fairly inexpensively, and you take, I say, 3 to 6 tablespoons a day with your fruits and vegetables. You should be in great shape.
It does a lot for your energy level as well.
Oh, it's amazing. Absolutely true. And it doesn't hurt also. Folks from time to time might do well take a quarter of a teaspoon of baking soda and about 2-3 ounces of water before bed. And folks say, oh, hey, there's sodium in there. I can't do it. It's only 35% sodium.
Yeah.
So baking soda is only 35% sodium. You don't have to worry too much about that. But a quarter of a teaspoon in 3 ounces of water at night, great way to, again, support the buildup of alkalization. And again, the key really here is to lead a lifestyle and a dietary program that really supports your ongoing alkalization. That's why you keep hearing in all these infomercials and a lot of the books you read and a lot of the radio programs, etc., that you hear. Alkalization is the key. If you lead an alkalizing lifestyle, you'll never run into any of these problems.
And it's getting so popular because it works.
It does work. And I can't tell you that literally the tens of thousands of people that I've walked through this thing successfully. Folks who had very, very serious digestive problems who beat them. Right. And they beat them at their own hand.
Yeah.
So the key here is diet is really important. Again, fruits, vegetables, and you want to really cut way down on the obvious acid-building junk foods and, unfortunately, fun foods. Save them for a vacation.
Yeah.
I always tell people, the worst thing you can do during periods of stress is increase the sugar and the alcohol. It's my metaphor on that one is, when the hurricane's coming through, you don't go sitting out on the porch with a cup of mint julep tea.
Yeah,
You got to batten the hatches, folks. So when stress is hitting, that's when you want to eat perfectly.
Yeah, you want to be good to yourself.
You want to be real good. You're going to have to rely upon that alkalization because otherwise stress is going to bring its own brand of acidosis. So we're going to give you some interesting solutions of some vitamins, some minerals, some over-the-counter supplements from the health food store that will turn your GERD around. Stay right where you are. We're going to be right back after these messages.
Hi, this is Catherine from Jarrow Formulas. We're happy to announce our new partnership with Dr. Mark Mincola. When we started out in this industry, our intentions were to bring good quality nutrition, cutting-edge science, and reasonably priced products to the market, and also encourage people to take an active role in their own health and wellness. Jarrow Formulas has been in business for over 20 years and is considered an industry leader. Jarrow is incredibly active in consumers' rights to access dietary supplements and creating good quality manufacturing standards for our industry. When we first met Dr. Mincola, we knew that we had a true partner and an ally in the mission of creating a happy, healthy, and wealthy New England through the sharing of knowledge and enthusiasm for health and healing. And we're excited for the world of knowledge that there is that we can share with you all. As we take this journey together with great partners, great energy, and looking forward to a great future for all of those that are encouraged to come.
Right in our area, we are fortunate to have one of the top martial arts schools in the country, Personal Best Karate. Personal Best has been recognized for their community involvement, professional staff development, character building programs, and exciting educational curriculum. Personal Best stands at the top of their industry. 5 locations offering personalized professional instruction. Not sure if karate is right for you? At no obligation, the staff at Personal Best will guide you in a private introductory program to see if karate is indeed the right fit to help you achieve your goals and meet your needs. What does karate at Personal Best teach you? Character building, success habits, helps you get in shape, relieve stress, self-control, setting goals, and of course, self-defense. Personal Best's goal is to create successful, contributing members of society through the practice of the martial arts at Personal Best. Mr. Chris Rappold is, of course, the founder of Personal Best Karate. He tells me his greatest joy of all is to see the personal transformation in each and every student. Bring out your best with Personal Best Karate. Telephone number 508-285-5425. That's 508-285-5425. Locations in Norton, Foxborough, Southeaston, Franklin, and Taunton. That's Personal Best Karate. All right, a couple things we want to talk about. We want to talk about the flu vaccine. Yay, let's all go get a flu vaccine. Must be a good thing, right?
Yeah.
Hey, most folks don't realize that these are essentially living. Most folks don't know that the sprays, for example, are 100% live vaccines.
Really?
Okay. And the injectable forms are referred. They're sort of most folks are under the understanding that they're dead.
Right.
That they're 50% live.
Yeah, or what they call attenuated.
Attenuated, which really does mean that they're only half alive.
Right.
So when you have a DNA form within these proteins, these viruses, they're capable of going through serial passaging and antigenic drifting, which means they can change their form and they can mutate into anything they wish at any time that they wish.
Yeah.
1976, the Guillain-Barré disease, which is essentially kind of an autoimmune disease where the body attacks the nervous system and breaks it down. And folks, there were so many folks in 1976 that received the swine flu vaccine that suffered from Guillain-Barré. And they suffered from this very serious autoimmune illness, specifically at the hands of the swine flu vaccine.
Jeez.
So what's it all about? Well, the bottom line of it is these are living forms of these viruses. Where are they obtained from? Well, they're obtained from the urine of pigs. They're obtained from the saliva of cows.
Right.
And these potentiated viruses and bacteria, by the way. Not to mention there's mercury in the form of thimerosal, and not to mention there's aluminum. Now, you know something? When you take aluminum and mercury and converge the two, there's the toxicity rate increases by 10,000 times.
Yeah, because any metal exemplifies the free radical
That's exactly
potency.
correct. The free radical potency will go up. So folks don't realize that. There's formaldehyde in these substances. People just, they just basically are like sheep. If they tell them that you should go do this, they go do that. But these are really unfit for human consumption. I wouldn't give those vaccines to my dog, and I don't even have a dog.
Yeah, I know.
And it's it's really important though that people get the message that it's not a slam dunk here. So, we're representative of the other side of the story, and this is just me saying, look, I wouldn't do it, and I'm not telling you either way because it's not my place to do that. But as an advisor and as a radio professional of nutrition and in alternative medicine, and the whole concept of hygienesis, I'm looking to encourage you, to inspire you, to educate you, to take better care of yourself, to let you know that you have a remarkable immune system.
Yeah.
It's a miraculous immune system. It'll do exactly what you needed it to do, what you would love to have it do to protect and defend you all the course of a long, healthy life, provided you maintain it well and take care of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that just to put that question to rest when people are constantly asking me, should I get the flu shot? Look, I can't tell you to get it. I can tell you I sure as heck haven't gotten it, nor would I.
Yeah, and there's so many other natural remedies out there for prevention and oscillocossinum, the homeopathic remedy. If you just keep that with you, you'll be fine.
Works well, and also, I always remind people about, the idea that they're worried about things like bird flu and all that sort of stuff. And, bird flu has a high mortality rate.
Right.
Now, there are not very many cases of bird flu
right.
globally, thank God. However, you're talking about 68% of the people who do, unfortunately, contract bird flu will die or have died from it. So a 68% kill factor is pretty dramatic.
Yeah.
But at the same time, in 1982, a good friend of mine who was a great researcher, who was a teacher for many years, professor at Michigan State University out of East Lansing, Michigan, Dr. John Kabara, and Heyerholzer worked together with a grant down at the Center for Disease Control in Atlanta in 1982. And lo and behold, they discovered that lauric acid from coconut actually killed influenza A.
Yeah.
Now, influenza A, folks, is bird flu.
Yeah. It is.
So as of 1982, we had researchers at the Center for Disease Control who found the solution for bird flu.
Yeah.
Problem is, nobody knows about it.
Yep.
And I tried to get him to come on the radio show. What do you think he said?
No. No. And there was also an extract from anise seed that was proven, and I think one of the treatments that they were trying to get out there for people, a pharmaceutical treatment, was actually a pharmaceutical synthetic version of this extract.
Absolutely. So we do have solutions, and lauric acid, of course, to you all out there is monolaurin or lauricidin, and you can purchase either of those at Good Health Natural Foods. Simple enough. And Good Health Natural Foods, by the way, why don't we just talk about them for 1 minute here?
They're amazing.
They're amazing. Yes, they are indeed amazing, and they're the sponsors, the flagship sponsors of the Natural Health and Healing Show, have been for, these many years. It'll be 7 years this coming Father's Day. So our hats off and our thanks to Ralph and Diane and the entire crew down at Good Health Natural Foods. And, of course, they're there to help you in all of your needs, all your natural foods needs. And they have plenty of Jarrow formula products on there, thanks to Catherine Foley.
Yeah, they're big Jarrow fans.
They're big Jarrow fans, and so am I. Yeah. So great to have Good Health and Jarrow on board. We're very pleased with that. And Good Health is, of course, in 2 different locations. They're down in Route 53 in Hanover. And you can check them out at 781-826-0808. You can check them out downtown Quincy as well. 617-773-4925 for all things natural, good health, natural food. See that?
You have that memorized, don't you?
I think I do.
That's amazing.
I can drive real good, too. Yeah. My dad used to always like the fact we used to, I was big on baseball cards when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So I had stacks and stacks and stacks of baseball cards. And my dad got the biggest kick. He'd always have a friend come over and say, hey, go get your baseball cards. I'd go get my cards. And he'd hand his friend a stack of about 300 cards. He said, just pick a card out of here randomly. And his friend would pick a card out. And he'd name a name, and I'd say he's 6'1", 212 pounds, bats left-handed, throws right-handed. He's been in the league for 4 years.
No way.
And I do that for about a half hour straight, so I can drive.
Wow, that's amazing.
So on top of those wonderful memories, I've taken that same brain along a long trek to where I can memorize Good Health Natural Foods phone numbers and addresses and all that wonderful stuff. But seriously, we want to make sure that we get the message out here that Good Health does really support us in a lot of these endeavors and supports you in these endeavors.
They really do.
And with perspective to the supplements that we were going to talk about for GERD, the natural approach to dealing with GERD, Good Health is well stocked in a lot of these substances. But one of the things I wanted to talk about, which I think is so very, very important, is L-glycine.
Yeah.
L-glycine is an amino acid, folks, and again, available over the counter at Good Health Natural Foods. But L-glycine is really, really important as an amino acid. I think you'll find it in 500 milligram doses, potencies rather, down at Good Health. And I recommend 500 milligrams of glycine in between meals on an empty stomach, 500 milligrams mid-morning, 500 milligrams mid-afternoon. But you're talking about a really terrific amino acid that helps you to maintain your equilibrium. It supports your pH equilibrium in the gut. So, again, one of the things you're looking to do is dietarily not work against yourself. Plenty of fruits, veggies, plenty of pure water. You want to work off that stress with exercise, meditation, deep relaxation, and think about life a little differently. So you want to work that out. But once you've done that, I think glycine is a superb natural amino acid to help you regulate and maintain a very solid equilibrium in your tissue linings and those stomach tissue linings, especially in the esophagus and the stomach. Also, L-glutamine, G-L-U-T-A-M-I-N-E, which works exceptionally well and works together nicely with histidine. So histidine and glutamine, G-L-U-T-A-M-I-N-E. Once again, 500 milligrams twice a day in an empty stomach. They can be taken together. There's no problems with that. And they work exceptionally well. And we mentioned earlier, a lot of these folks have the bacterial problems as well. So in the event that these tissues have been so chewed up in the stomach lining that they have indeed bacterialized and have maybe even ulcerated, those are more advanced cases. And again, probiotics is a really good way to go.
Yeah, and probiotics.
Who's got a better probiotic than you guys? Answer, nobody.
Yeah, really, I know. We're the number one selling probiotic.
I love your EPS system. Jarrow has a wonderful, wonderful probiotic.
It is just amazing. EPS is a blend of 8 strains of clinically documented species.
Love it.
In that, we have the BB536, which is the Morinaga strain, that has been clinically shown to reduce C. diff populations. Also, a lot of the lactobacillus bacteria, the byproduct of their food fermentation is an alkaline substrate. So you are producing alkaline-forming compounds with all of the good bacteria that are in your digestive tract to ferment the foods. We just came out with a new SKU called Ultra Gyrodophilus.
Really?
It's very exciting. It's 10 strains, which are clinically documented.
Wow.
And it's 40 billion organisms per capsule. So, we look at Ultra Gyrodophilus as this is going to be a real clinical dosing of bacteria for people. And maybe in a situation like this, it would be good to take the higher potency Gyrodophilus to really kind of get your system back in shape very quickly and reduce those symptoms really, really profoundly.
So probiotics, I love the EPS system, and folks can use a couple of those capsules a day to help neutralize some of the bacterial component of this problem. Other options, Una de Gato is really good, which is called cat's claw, and that's an herb that's commonly available over the counter at the health food store. And cat's claw is a wonderful natural antibiotic, especially for these stomach bacteria. So that is another option that you can make use of.
And one thing that people can tend to look over is a very simple remedy for acid reflux. It's an old remedy, but just taking these slippery elm lozenges really provides a coating for the stomach and really soothes a lot of the irritation. How
about mastic gum?
Well, yeah.
You guys got the great mastic gum.
I think we're one of the only ones that make mastic gum. Mastic gum is a resin from the pistachio tree. It has been used for centuries to treat ulcers.
Works
ulcers.
Remarkably well.
Yep, and in a petri dish, you apply mastic gum to a petri dish inoculated with Helicobacter pylori, and it kills H. pylori in the same way that an antibiotic would kill H. pylori.
Well, and another really interesting point, too, is I've got a study from the University of Brazil, actually, here. And the aim of this study was to investigate if a dietary supplementation containing melatonin, tryptophan, vitamin B6, folic acid, B12, methionine, and betaine would help patients with GERD, and to compare the preparation with 20 milligrams of omeprazole. Melatonin has known inhibitory activities on gastric acid secretions and nitric oxide biosynthesis. Now, nitric oxide, think about this one. Nitric oxide is ultimately the supreme anti-inflammatory.
Yeah, it really is.
So when you think about things like, grapeseed extract, for example, a number of wonderful, fish oils, and a lot of these things are wonderful anti-inflammatories, but specifically if you're looking at nitric oxide generators, things like the grapeseed extract, pycnogenol is a good example as well. But this is all about the nitric oxides, and it goes on to say nitric oxide has an important role in the transient lower esophageal sphincter relaxation, which is a major mechanism of reflux patients with GERD. Others, biocompounds of formula display anti-inflammatory and analgesic effects. A single-blind randomized study was performed in which 176 patients underwent treatment using these supplements cited above, and 175 received treatment of 20 milligrams of omeprazole. All patients of the natural group, 100% reported a complete regression of symptoms after 40 days of treatment. On the other hand, only 115 of the omeprazole, or 65%, reported during that same positive results during that same period. So the folks who are taking the natural anti-inflammatories, over-the-counter natural food supplements, which focused again on things like melatonin, which is really an important one to grab here. Melatonin, which most folks are aware of, is really pretty helpful for the insomnia problems. But most folks don't realize that melatonin actually counteracts adrenal hormones. So when you're producing high levels of stress hormones, like you're producing aldosterone and epinephrine in cortisol levels, and your stress hormones are really super high, melatonin actually counteracts that. So the idea of melatonin being not just a sleep aid, but a stress hormone counteractor, which enables it to really kind of relax the digestive lower esophageal sphincter, the transient lower esophageal sphincter. So it's really, really important to understand that melatonin has a lot of different interesting functions. It's quite remarkable. But in this particular study, melatonin, L-tryptophan, another serotonin supporter, so something to kind of take that stress level down. And obviously B6, folic acid, and vitamin B12, methionine, and betaine. What a wonderful plan that is.
Yeah.
But again, 100% of the 175 patients in this particular University of Brazil study at the end of a 40-day period had 100% positive results.
Isn't that amazing?
The medication, only 115 folks out of 175, or 65%.
That's amazing.
So yes, you can do this with natural medicines, and I would encourage you to think in terms of, again, I keep saying, prophylaxis, prevention, hygienesis, as I like to call it. You have 100% empowerment over this issue. You don't have to let it happen. And keep in mind what we said on the other end of this thing is that if you don't really endeavor to prevent this problem and to really react to this problem, unfortunately, the numbers are becoming more and more alarming regarding esophageal cancer.
Well, and that's because, as we keep saying, if you let this go to an extreme, this is the end result, and the effect of covering up the situation with, pharmaceuticals that are just a Band-Aid, you're just treating the symptoms, you're not correcting, the issue, so it's allowed to go on for a lot longer than it should, and the patient is not fixing the root problem for many, many years until now they're presenting with this very severe condition.
No question about it. We were talking about glycine a little while ago, and I did some little additional research on glycine, knowing full well that it was extremely helpful at helping to stabilize cellular function, obviously, and cellular hyperexcitability or inflammation, as they call it. In cellular detoxification, specifically to stabilize the gut reflex as well. But I found these other interesting little tidbits just as an aside here. Recent animal studies suggest that glycine may have some anti-cancer properties. In one study, 51 weeks of glycine supplementation reduced the formation of small liver tumors by 23%, medium-sized tumors by 64%, and large tumors by 80%, and rats given an agent that is peroxisome proliferation or liver carcinogenic. So they're inducing cancer in these rats, and then they're giving them a dose of glycine.
Wow.
And they're able to reduce the liver tumors in the large rats by as much as 80%, 64% in the medium-sized tumors, and 23% in small tumors.
That's amazing.
So it is amazing. And again, you know why, folks? Because it's a stabilizer.
Yeah.
That's the key. So, Mother Nature already had you in mind. There's plenty you can do from the dietary perspective. There's plenty you can do from the nutritional perspective. But, I wanted to tell you I have, of late, since, we've been working together, I've been using the Gyromastic gum quite a bit for a lot of folks that I've been working with GERD.
Yeah.
And I found some fantastic results with it.
A lot of times people are, dealing with this for many, many years, and then they try mastic gum and are amazed. Oh my God, it's over.
Well, and that's the other thing about this, is that if you work with this the way we're suggesting, you will get results within 7 to 10 days. It's not going to take you a lot of time or a lot of money. 7 to 10 days of just kind of getting your equilibrium back with natural foods and natural supplements. And, you're just going to feel better and better and better.
And the alternative for people with H. pylori infection is a course of antibiotics, and these are not just regular antibiotics. They are
not just regular antibiotics.
They're really intense. They're double or triple the dose of
Yes, and I'm going to tell you that some of the more serious issues in my life that I've ever had to try to help treat with folks and try to have to neutralize were the long-term side effects of long-term antibiotic, real strong broad-spectrum antibiotic use, because it just absolutely strips down your floral bacteria. Again, keep in mind, antibiotics are not smart bombs. They're going to take out anything that's bacterial, and they're going to strip the cell walls of your bacteria, good and bad. And we've already pointed out 99% of the bacteria on planet Earth are good guys. And a lot of what you need are these good bacteria to build up your immune system. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. Hi there, this is Mark Mincole of the Natural Health and Healing Show. I'm proud to announce that our new natural health care offices in Cohasset are offering personalized nutritional consultations. At Santi Holistic Healing, you're experiencing an informative, individualized nutritional consultation by one of my finest personally trained nutritional experts. Your consultant will test you for specific food allergies and supplements. You'll chart out a personalized optimal nutritional roadmap that will detail your healthiest foods and nutritional supplements, even specific doses. Whether it's nutritional consulting or healing massage, call us at Santi Holistic Healing at 781-383-3393.
Hi, this is Laura from Good Health Natural Foods, proud sponsor of the Health and Healing Show. We're all about smart, simple, and affordable nutrition. Let our lifestyle consultants help you and your family keep your resolutions and achieve all your personal goals this year. Feel good and look your very best today. For everything natural, organic, and economical, it's Good Health Natural. Thanks for listening.
Alrighty, welcome back. And we've been chatting with you this evening, Catherine Foley and I have, about GERD, and again, the unfortunate numbers, 60 million Americans with gastroesophageal reflux, heartburn, whatever you want to call it. But again, the thing that I'm really concerned about here is that you get this message, because it's not going to go away. There's no simple solutions, and the traditional orthodoxy solutions are not, in any way, shape, or form, real viable problem solvers for the long term. They are indeed Band-Aids, and unfortunately, if you put yourself in position to have to rely upon those Band-Aids, then you are opting out on the most important involvement that you could possibly imagine. Because, again, I keep reiterating here, you do have 100% control over this stuff. But, again, according to a new report published in the Cancer Journal for Clinicians, the alarming rise in esophageal cancer may be linked to GERD and other gastrointestinal disorders. Esophageal cancer is the 7th leading cause of cancer worldwide and is the fastest growing cancer in the United States.
Wow.
And again, 13,300 people out of the 14,200 diagnosed will die.
Wow.
So we're talking about an 80% death rate within 5 years of being diagnosed. And again, we keep bringing up this point. If you don't take care of this problem when it's a lesser issue, it's going to continue to snowball.
Yeah, and it's pretty huge. I mean, it's because of the location of the cancer that it's really inoperable.
Yes, indeed. And those tissues are so sensitive there. And for us to be wreaking such havoc of disregard, I think, with regards to a lot of the very acidic and fatty and rich foods and spicy foods and acidic coffees and alcohols and all that stuff and tobaccos, it's, you weren't built for it.
I mean, your body's revolting against it.
Yeah, your body was not designed for it. So this, you basically have to get the message that when these symptoms these symptomatic reprisals are screaming and shouting, that is the way that your body communicates to you. Your body doesn't have the advantage of your mouth. I always say the mind has the mouth to do its speaking.
Right.
The body has symptoms.
Yeah.
So you got to listen to these symptoms. That's exactly how your body's going to communicate to you and try to get your attention. The other thing I wanted to bring up here, too, is that reflux is an issue that is largely controllable in many cases. I saw some really fascinating studies about mind-body medicine, a lot of mind-body studies. And, we briefly talked about stress earlier and, meditation, that kind of thing. But I think that if folks really take a look at some of the research, some of the mind-body research on gastroesophageal reflux, you'll find that the whole concept of, I guess, what you can call neuroplasticity, or thinking more positive, more productive thoughts, and kind of reformatting and remapping, because our brains are basically mapped with the different thought patterns that we're accustomed to. And most folks think that whatever thought patterns they've got going on up there, that's just my personality. That's the way I am. I can't change. Well, yeah, you can change. In fact, your brain was designed to change. It was a fascinating study I saw that was done at the Salk Institute. Peter Erickson and Fred Gage. And this was done in 1993. And they found that men and women in their 80s who were terminally ill, that was a remarkable study, but they found men and women in their 80s, when they were given new information, lit up PET scans in the same exact fashion as 12-year-olds.
That's true.
So the idea that, you're stuck, my mom used to be this way, and I'm that way, and that's my personality, and it's my genes, and it's just the way we are, blah, blah. No, that doesn't work. You're being challenged every time you're taking on any kind of symptoms that indeed you do have power and responsibility over, that you really also have to become aware of the fact that you are mentally responsible for yourself and to take a different approach to thinking. There's a great author, Richard Bandler, who wrote a great book called Transformations, TRANCE Formations, and he's a great NLP guru, a neuro-linguistic programming guru, and he talks extensively about, he said, we can't make you happier, really. I mean, we're kind of wasting our time to try to make you happier, but what we can do is we can teach you how to do things more happily. Yeah. And we can encourage you to just take a more positive attitude to whatever tasks you're engaged in. So it doesn't matter if you're just, bumming out washing the dishes on a gloomy day tomorrow or whatever. Yeah. If you just make it a point to take control mentally over that given situation, it's going to have a tremendous effect on the psychosomatic response. Yeah. And it's going to help your immune system. It's going to help stabilize your pH and really keep you well, not any differently than the vitamins, the minerals, and a good diet.
Yeah. It's funny. Every once in a while, you'll have an experience in your life where somebody says something to you, and it's like,
Epiphany happens.
Epiphany happens. You're walking down the street, and somebody says something, and all of a sudden, you hit a brick wall, and you see yourself for the first time.
Absolutely.
Somebody said something to me this week. It was an owner of this company, Kate. She's a wonderful person. She owns this company, Kate's Magic, and she said that she was reflecting on something, and she realized that worry is nothing but a prayer for disaster.
Oh, that's great. That's fantastic.
She kind of stopped me in my tracks.
Bang, right in your tracks. Knocked you right off.
Now every time I catch myself worrying, I realize it's a prayer for disaster. I immediately
and what I always encourage folks in the corporate environment when I'm doing a lot of the mind-body programs with them is to erase and replace.
Yeah.
So whenever the negative stuff happens, just pay attention to it. Catch it.
Yeah.
And as you catch it and audit it, you want to erase it and replace it with something positive. Yeah. It's simply a matter of getting accustomed to behaving and thinking in different ways, remapping, because we've already mapped to get ourselves into trouble, so we know that we map. But let's remap now, and let's map out of the problems and start creating solutions.
And, tying it back to it, digestive health, they always say that the second largest accumulation of nerves besides the brain is the intestinal tract and the digestive system. So, anything going on emotionally can have a tendency to present itself in the digestive system.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Amazing, and we thank you so much for helping out. This hour always flies by. Catherine Foley from Jarrow Formulas, always a great pleasure to have you here. And we have to thank, of course, Adam Ng for helping us with this podcasting. Yeah. And, of course, Larry Nelson. It wouldn't be possible without our one and only Larry Nelson. Larry Nelson is WATD.
Yeah, he really is.
So without him, it wouldn't be as fun as it is either.
And the listeners.
And the listeners. We love the listeners. That's why we're here.
And they can see you on
and they can see us on, they can see us. They can check out this program every week if you want to check out this thing more visually, or listen to it again. You can do either one. We podcast in visual form, but you can check it out on the website at maxhealing.com. And, of course, my NECN segments every
those.
Wednesday. Thank you. And they're on. Everywhere I go now, there's somebody saying, I've seen your segment. It's pretty funny. It's all the folks out there on their treadmills. And,
aren't you? Wait.
On the byways and highways. Where did I see you?
Yeah.
But that's a great pleasure to do that. I enjoy it. And that's Wednesday morning, 9:45, 10:45, and 11:45. That's on New England Cable News. And we have an interesting segment this week on the worst meals, the worst possible meals that people could make. We're evaluating them based on their nutritional lack and obviously their fat, salt, and sugar content. So we're going to have a little fun with that. And we'll be back here, of course, as we are each and every Sunday at 95.9 FM WATD. And you're, of course, listening to the Natural Health and Healing Show. And my name is Mark Mincole, and I welcome you all back each and every Sunday at this time. And until next Sunday, remember, please be wise,